Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. It is our MCU 11 Monday night. Marvel Mondays, where we're rewatching all the Marvel movies and re-ranking them. Tonight, we're right around the halfway point. I think we just passed it maybe last week. I forget. Anyways, it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man Homecoming tonight. First Spider-Man movie in the MCU. Your guys' thoughts before we get into the plot recap here. Anything you want to say?
Um, I feel like this movie is the first time since rewatching it that my overall thoughts haven't been like really changed from
Uh,
the first time I watched it. Maybe
uh,
it's because it's more recent,
hmm.
but I feel like my original assessment and my current assessment are kind of the same.
You're famously a very, very big Spider-Man fan. You're the big
Yeah,
number one Spider-Man boy, is Rory.
that's me. I was
I
I was into Spider-Man before it was cool because I come from a small town and not didn't have enough people around me to know that Spider-Man's been cool for longer than I've been alive.
So the most popular
Yeah.
superhero.
I enjoyed the movie, but this is actually the first time that I've seen it since theaters,
Mm.
and oh man, this is a lot longer than I remember it being.
It
Yeah,
is a
actually,
longer movie, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I didn't see it in the theaters. I watched like an hour of it randomly at my dad's house when I was home one Christmas, like a few years later. So this is my first time watching it all the way through.
Oh
It was
wow.
a fun movie. Yeah. Well, we're gonna recap the entire plot of the movie today in the style of a little game called Fortunately, Unfortunately. We'll name a plot point, and then the next person will either have to say fortunately or unfortunately. We'll flip each way, right?
I
Fortunately or
see.
unfortunately, to say what the next plot point is. After the first one, the first one will just be
Okay.
a statement of fact.
Unfortunately, it will be a
Yes.
statement of fact.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we barely know the meaning of facts.
Unfortunately, there'll be a quiz at the end with school subjects,
Oh.
including vocabulary. Okay, so we
Fortunate. Oh,
that,
sorry. Go ahead.
go. No, no.
No. I was just buying time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we start off with Michael Keaton looking at a children's drawing of the Avengers.
Unfortunately, that's the last happy moment in the prologue, um, as his crew quickly gets kicked out of the disaster site that they were originally hired to clean up, and they lost their jobs.
Fortunately, all of the government money going towards the cleanup is getting funneled right back into the government and also big business Tony Stark.
Uh, Unfortunately, Michael Keaton punches a federal agent, but he doesn't go to jail or anything. But he does lose his job, and then that's the last we see of him for 8 years.
But fortunately, he got himself a slick new job of making stuff out of alien things and being a criminal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the aforementioned Tony Stark needs to hire a miner in order to fight one of his best friends.
And unfortunately, oh yeah, unfortunately, already.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, um, that miner, unfortunately, he keeps taking videos of what's going on, so it's bad operational security. Everyone can see what's happening. It's all
But
the secrets of the Avengers.
fortunately, his shoddy camera work doesn't matter as much because we've all seen that scene in the previous movie.
Wait, you were fortunately, so I'm unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah, I love
Unfortunately,
that phrase.
that is going to be the last time that Peter gets to work with Tony uh, of Tony's volition.
And unfortunately, he has to go back to school after becoming like a world saving superhero. he has to go back to high school as a sophomore. It's like the worst year of high school.
Fortunately, he's got a really close friend who is smart like he is, and everybody that he knows is just as smart as he is.
Unfortunately, his responsibilities as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man keep him from doing all of the activities that one would associate with smart kids that are going down a good track in life.
But fortunately, he's got a crush on the prettiest girl in school, and she knows who he is. They're kind of friends.
Unfortunately, it turns out she has a crush on Spider Man, not Peter Parker. Unfortunately, his best friend gets him invited to a party under the pretense that Spider Man will show up.
And fortunately, uh, he does have the spider suit on when he goes to the party because he finds out that the alien weapons that Michael Keaton was making earlier in the movie are now getting used.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're being sold to scumbags under a bridge, and one of those scumbags is Donald Glover.
Um, Fortunately, he stops the gun sale, the illegal alien weapon sale, um, and scares off the bad guys. Kind of.
Yeah, the chase. They get away.
Unfortunately, that just means that he just got made fun of at the party while he wasn't there to defend himself all night.
Fortunately, Peter Parker sounds a lot like Penis Parker, which was very easy for his bully to make up a nickname for him. So fortunately for the bully,
Unfortunately for Peter, Tony Stark is aware of his activities and upset that he is batting out of his league.
Fortunately, because of the help of his smart friend, he's able to disable the bug in his suit that helps Tony and Happy track him, and he can go and do whatever he wants.
unfortunately, the goons are after him because he's got some alien tech on him, and they chase him around his high school. Or they try to find him in his high school.
Fortunately, they don't, and Peter Parker is able to put a tracker on them and play a game of cat and also cat where they're each chasing each other, but Peter Parker manages to get the drop on them.
Yeah,
Am I unfortunate?
yeah, you
are.
really are.
Okay. Unfortunately, even though he is able to track them to Washington, D.C., he needs to not hang out with the hottest girl in school in a swimsuit because he has to go and catch criminals. Oh, that lasted Parker luck.
Yeah. But fortunately, he gets to save everybody when they get stuck in the exploding Washington Monument. As Superman.
Unfortunately, Jennifer Connelly is only a voice in his head and not a fully formed AI for him to interact with.
Fortunately, this was years before Karen became a thing.
And unfortunately, uh, let's see. Unfortunately, he gets attention for missing the entire academic decathlon, even though they didn't need him in one anyways. So he didn't need to be there as a student, and he has to get attention. So that's pretty unfortunate.
Fortunately, he does figure out where the next gun deal is going on, and it's enough on a ferry, which is like the perfect place for Spider-Man to stop it.
Unfortunately, uh, he actually ends up screwing up an FBI bust, and Iron Man's pretty upset with him.
Uh, Fortunately, he has to. It's time for him to learn a lesson by having his suit taken away, and going back to basics. It's an important thing for every young man to have to do.
Uh, was that fortunately or unfortunately?
That was fortunately.
Unfortunately, he finds out that the bad guy is his date's dad.
Fortunately, because of the fact that he did save his date from dying in the Washington Monument, the Vulture actually gives him a chance.
Unfortunately, he has to. He's got to do the right thing, and you know, fight his date's dad instead of just walking away. Wouldn't to be the safer
Unfortunately, he has a building dropped on him.
Fortunately, he's Spider-Man,
thing.
which means that he can lift really heavy things if there's enough responsibility
Yeah.
involved.
Unfortunately, his friend Ned, who's his guy in the chair helping him out with tech support and things, gets caught by the principal and has to tell her that he's been watching porn on school computers.
Fortunately, um, Peter Parker's third time on the plane is on the outside, and he manages to crash it in Coney Island, I think.
Yeah,
That was fortunate, right?
yeah.
Or was
Does
that
that sound
unfortunate?
fortunate?
Yeah. Lucky
Okay.
number 3. Like most of us go our entire lives without having a plane crash.
Yeah.
hmm Unfortunately, the plane crash did not take out the Vulture, and they still need to fight some more, even though the Vulture's half wrecked from the
Yeah.
crash.
Fortunately, Spider-Man always has to do the right thing and saves the life of his enemy who's trying to kill him.
Um, Unfortunately, this means that Liz is moving to Oregon.
Hmm.
And fortunately, that means that that love interest has been pushed on the side, and now we can actually start to really get to know Michelle, aka MJ.
Yeah. Unfortunately, um, Tony Stark wants Spider-Man to be one of the Avengers, despite him being a child man.
Fortunately, Tony Stark and Pepper are back together, and that really levels him out quite a bit.
Unfortunately, uh, Vulture's not the only person who's upset at Spider-Man, and Mac Gargan, aka or soon to be aka the Scorpion,
Mm,
uh, is also after him now.
yeah. Fortunately, um, the Vulture's got some honor and is protecting Spider-Man's secret identity.
Unfortunately, Captain America still has to make PSAs ad nauseum.
Yeah, and
And
that's the movie.
fortunately, we're at the end of the summary.
Yay!
Yay!
Who's making him do those, by the way? Is that a Shield thing?
I think it's his own conscience.
Oh, okay. Got to do something for the kids.
Yeah. He's got to pay off for all those steroids and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got to actually make good on the 50 some odd years of government back pay.
Oh, yeah. I think he's been getting paid the whole time.
I've never thought of that. I mean, do POWs get paid like hazard pay when they're
I think they do.
captured?
I believe
I wanna
they
say
do.
So, I mean, that's got to apply to Captain America,
Yeah.
right?
He's missing in action at least, so definitely
Yeah.
something.
I've never
Someone-
thought of that. That's a
Some-
good
I'm sure-
headcanon of like that
I'm sure
explains
some-
how he was able to like come out of retirement and buy some place in the Brooklyn, some gym in the Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
oh.
in
Plus, he
2008
cashed in all
or
those
whatever.
war bonds. because
Yeah.
you know that's what he was putting all his money into.
He's probably getting paid in war bonds the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure some nerd has done the calculations on how much money that he's owed by the government when he wakes up.
Speaking of Captain America, we did get to see the grandson of one of the Howling Commandos.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep.
Same actor plays the principal of Peter's high school, and he was oh, what was the Japanese guy's name?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I
'Cause I
just
think the
know them
actor's
all by
Kenneth
their
Choi.
ethnicity or like the one weird attribute that they have. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
until we had been talking about him that I had to remember who Dum Dum Dugan was. Like for
You're
years,
just thinking
like, he was-
about Bowler Hat.
yeah,
Yeah.
bowler hat guy.
Right.
Mhm.
That's the only name I do remember because it's such a good name, Dum Dum Dugan. Jim Morita. I
Yeah,
assume
that's
is
right.
brothers with Pat Morita.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what did you guys think? Because I've got lots of stuff, but
Right.
it's also like me. I could nerd out way
Right,
too
yeah.
easy. So
For me, definitely, I really like this take on Spider-Man. I love all the actors in the movie. Everyone does a really great job. The movie's fun. I think it's a little too busy to be like a great movie. There's a little bit too much plot and not enough. Like I'm thinking of like last week when we watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where there's not very much plot. Not a whole lot happens, but it's a lot of character stuff, a lot of emotional things. And this one kind of dials that all back a lot and gives us a lot more plot and a lot of running from A to B and all these things that kind of keeps it from being great. But you're having a good time the whole time, so you're not really thinking about it. It's when you go to rank it that's when you kind of start to see those little cracks in it. But like I said, I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man and his friend Ned. Even Michael Keaton, I think, does a great job as the Vulture. But then, like when he's giving his speech about the all those rich people that don't care about us and all that stuff, like it would have been great if we saw more of Peter Parker living that life of oh yeah, so he's got a single parent aunt that's taking care of him and everything. They don't got a lot of money or anything, but they don't really have to deal with those problems in the movie. So so it takes some of the impact out for those things. So overall, I didn't really like the movie though, but it wasn't a great movie. What do you think, Chad?
I like it a lot. As always, I enjoy when Marvel gives nods towards real societal problems and then promptly ignores them for the rest of the movie. uh, I also enjoyed seeing a lot of little comic shout outs, like the orange and brown jacket that the Shocker had on, the fact that the government program in charge of cleaning up after the Avengers messes is damage control. All that kind of stuff. I love seeing little comic book bits peppered in there. Um, I enjoyed the movie overall, and there's no way that I can get upset at a Spider-Man movie where he has to lift a heavy thing, because that's one of the most quintessentially Spider-Man actions that he
Yeah.
can do,
Right.
is get trapped underneath heavy stuff and then realize that if he can't lift it, people will get hurt.
Right.
So he has to lift it. But I have a question for you guys. One of the criticisms of this movie that it's been getting attacked for since day one is people are like, this isn't Spider-Man, this is Iron Boy Jr.
okay, I do really want to answer that one,
Right.
because I feel like this is dovetailing with what my main criticism of the movie. Like I can't get mad at a Spider-Man movie for a lot of the same things I get mad at other movies for. Like I agree with you that the plot's a little bit busy, but I also feel like we know Spider-Man so well because he's the most popular character in the world.
Right.
That if they knew they could skip that part and people would just understand it. And I feel like especially with the previous Spider-Man movies where they were like getting nailed for going over the same territory, that this movie bypassed it. I don't disagree with them saying that this is Iron Boy Jr., but I don't think that's fair entirely.
Uh-oh.
Come on back, Rory.
Rory's thinking real hard.
He's taking a very dramatic pause.
Yeah.
Sorry, where did I cut off for you guys?
It's been so long that I can't.
You said it's a fair criticism, and then you took a deep breath, and then that was it.
Okay, so it's a fair criticism, but like even in the comics, even in comic books, Spider-Man is a contemporary of Tony Stark. Like he's younger, but even Tony Stark looks at him as somebody that can almost hang with him most of the time. Like Peter Parker doesn't apply himself or have the funding that Tony Stark has, but so in this movie, laying that on thicker right off the front bat, I feel like is just kind of jump starting from where they started in the comic books to where they wound up.
Right.
My biggest criticism, this is kind of a criticism on day one, and then it has sort of subsided, which makes sense, is that this isn't Peter Parker Spider-Man. This is Miles Morales Spider-Man. Complete with the chubby Asian best friend. The high school that he goes to isn't, or Peter Parker just goes to like shitty public school. Miles Morales is the one that got into the technical school. Also, Miles Morales is smart, but not as smart as Genki, his sidekick. And Peter Parker is a contemporary of Tony Stark. Like, can invent things at the level of Tony Stark. When he did have Parker Industries, his company was going head to head with Stark for innovations and new tech and stuff like that. So like needing a guy in a chair, that's not original Peter Parker at all. Like not knowing how to like hijack his suit. In the Civil War comic books, Tony Stark gives Peter Parker the Scarlet Spider suit with the extra arms and everything. And Peter Parker immediately goes in and removes all of the restrictions that Tony Stark put in there for him on his own. No problem. So that's my biggest criticism of this, is that it's like you ripped off Miles Morales and gave that backstory to Peter Parker. Also, his Miles Morales' mom is hot, so like you even took that.
There's never a hot Aunt May in the comic books.
I mean, not to anybody that normally reads comic books.
I mean, she's gradually gotten younger as time has passed by.
Right.
Because in the original, like the 60s, when she was first created, she was like 107 years old.
Yeah.
Like she was constantly on death's door for decades.
Yeah.
And then eventually around like maybe the 80s or 90s, they're like, oh, maybe she should just be like a regular senior citizen. Like in her early 60s.
Right. Also, if she's 100 years old in the 60s, that means that she was born during the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I guess that's my biggest criticism, tongue-in-cheek wise, for this movie. When I heard it was coming out and that the villain was going to be the Vulture, I was excited because that's what I always wanted to see in a Spider-Man movie, was him fighting the Vulture. But I was always thinking of like the comic book version of the Vulture, where it's like a old, frail Mr. Burns-looking guy. I wanted it to be that, not Michael Keaton.
Not super badass techno Vulture.
Yeah.
Although I really dig this this
Hmm.
interpretation of the
Mm.
Vulture. Like, I do have to give it up to the MCU on every time they bring a character out, and I'm like, this is just fucking stupid from the comics. Like, why? And then they bring it out, and I'm like, oh, you did something with that I thought there was
Right.
so much baggage on old ass Adrian Toomes that you couldn't do that.
Right.
So
And I even the look I thought was interpreted very well for the movie, because like the signature like look that we think of with comic book Vulture, it's the green jumpsuit with the furry neck like a
Mm.
vulture's
Right.
neck, and the old guy's face. So they kept the fur thing, but instead it's like a fur-lined bomber jacket
Yeah. It's
that
pretty
this
cool.
dude with crazy, scary, high-tech wings has, and it's just like, this is cool as shit.
Yeah.
yeah,
The glowing green
yeah.
eyes and the talons. It's cool.
Hmm.
And like the little like snipper wing feather
Yeah,
things,
Yeah.
like
yeah. Like seeing that made me think, like, man, I miss Archangel. Stupid having regular angel wings. He needs to have knives for wings.
Yeah. He's shooting knives out of his wings. It's cool. Blue skin.
Hmm.
yeah, still blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's
Um,
important.
yeah. Um, I feel
But yeah,
like
I definitely agree with you about they took a lot of elements of Miles's story,
Mm.
and you're right. After the first movie, people just stopped talking about that,
yeah,
despite the fact that it's like it's still true.
Right.
yeah. Um, and like the sad thing is after this movie came out, a lot of that plot line got sidetracked for Miles Morales in the comics.
Hmm.
Like they're just like, oh, Genki's not
Mm.
going to be as big a part of it anymore. And that was like the cool thing about it was is that like I don't want to like shit on Miles Morales here, but he's definitely not like Peter Parker level smart. So like Genki was the one that was actually like making the webbing because
Mm.
he couldn't do it reliably. Like he knew the formula, but like it's still a complex chemistry thing to get it exactly right. So like those are parts that I missed.
Right.
Hmm.
Is that Spider-Man, they made him less capable in this movie to justify bringing in that character.
Mm.
Um, and I feel like they didn't need to bring the Ned in. And don't get me wrong, I like Ned,
Mm.
but they could have done the same thing with just introducing Karen earlier, so he had somebody to be talking to the entire time.
Right.
Hmm.
But but yeah, that was my number one criticism is that this wasn't. It's not that it wasn't Peter Parker's origin story. It was that it was specifically another Spider-Man's origin and
Mm.
character that they kind of rolled over onto Peter Parker.
Right.
Hmm.
To be fair, though, a big part of my major criticism of Miles Morales' opening was that they had just remade a slightly different version of Peter Parker to be the new Spider-Man, where it's like,
Right.
what are the odds that a spider's going to bite another 12-year-old that is virtually the
Yeah.
same kid?
Well, I mean, have you ever
Um,
been bitten by a spider as an adult? That usually happens when you're a kid.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, it's not the fact that it's a kid; it's that
Right.
it's the same kid. Like,
Right.
It's a kid in New York with very similar personality to the other
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
that got bit. Um, one thing that I do want to say in terms of them downgrading Peter's smartness, I think that wha- a couple of things that they show him doing in the movie is, one, they show him doing his own webbing. Two, uh, they show him cobbling stuff together, and he continues to do more on the engineering side throughout the series of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Uh, like Genki is, or not Genki, Ned in this movie, he's doing like the computer stuff
Mm.
for Peter, but the actual hands-on tech, uh,
Yeah.
a lot of it is still Peter, and I think that that's not necessarily. I can see the argument for it being you're taking away some of Peter's genius, but the fact that he's like 16 years old or whatever, or
15.
15
I think 15
in the,
minutes.
yeah, that he's 15 years old in the movie, and they showed in it was in Civil War that they showed what kind of computer tech he was working with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
like in Civil War they showed that he had like an Apple II GS or something that he was working off of. So it's like, one, it makes sense that he wouldn't be as familiar with computer interface stuff, and two, he's super young, so for him to be as much of a polymath as we know him as an adult in the Marvel universe is like, it's not necessary to still
Yeah.
show that he is incredibly smart.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the like I it's one of those things where it's like, as a movie, I agree with you completely. It's not
Mhm.
necessary, and you need to have a reason for Ned to be there. But I guess my only thing is like, I don't think that if it wasn't the fact that it was ripping off Miles Morales' story, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Mm.
I think they could have done the same thing with just having Karen
Mhm.
be the AI in the
Right.
suit.
Yeah.
Which, and I also would have been completely fine if this was like, if they hadn't put Peter Parker in this movie. Like, if this was a Miles Morales Spider-Man, I
Mhm.
would have, they would have been like, oh, this is a fucking genius
Right.
adaptation of it. Once again, I understand why they didn't. It's just, this was like it felt like a tone deaf thing of being like, hey, we understand everybody really likes Miles Morales, and we do too. So we're gonna steal his story and give it to the white guy. Whereas
Mhm.
it's like, oh, that's not the way to do that.
Right.
So
Especially because they're gonna
that was,
probably want to do a Miles Morales movie sooner or later anyway. So now, like,
yeah,
now what are they gonna do?
Especially as they introduced his uncle already.
Yeah, that's right. Donald Glover as the Prowler, the guy who grows up to be the Prowler, right?
Mhm.
yeah. So one other character change that I actually found more irritating,
Mm.
I guess, is the MJ role.
Mhm.
Right.
Um, that one, I feel like because Miles and Peter Parker are so similar anyway, even in the comics from their age, them sharing traits doesn't bother me as much because they're just a reskinning and a slight retooling of each other.
Mm.
Um, but MJ in the MCU is a completely, totally different MJ than in the comics.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, she's almost closer to a like a more modern version of Gwen Stacy than she is MJ
Mm.
from this
Ultimate
time
Gwen.
period. Yeah.
Right.
And I really like this MJ a lot more than I would have liked any MJ in the comics. But it was still just the like, this was the one character that you kind of, it's a quintessential Spider-Man thing of their relationship only makes sense if she's her and he's him.
Mm.
And this one can't have that same story arc.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
it can't happen.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. I want to see how their relationship grows and their romance happens in the next movie, which I will refuse to watch. I can't watch the next movie. But yeah, it's weird because like her character in this movie is just to be like to put the punchline on scenes and just be like this weird girl that's doing things that like it annoyed me when I was watching it, but I'm like, mostly because I know that she's supposed to be MJ and she's gonna end up being with with Spider-Man with Peter. So it's like it's weird how they're setting this girl up to be like this weirdo. And then after his love interest leaves at the end of the movie, and that's when we're actually going to get into what's going on with MJ. And like I don't know, I just didn't like the character. But I feel like if I was in high school when this movie came out and I was watching it, I would be into someone who's just the random funny person at the end of the scene doing weird stuff. But she's not weird enough for me as it is right now.
She's
Yeah.
not weird enough for you as an adult.
Yeah. No, just watching the character, being like, oh, that's the weird girl. But she doesn't look like the weird girl. She looks like the second prettiest girl in the high school, right?
Right.
Instead of, they should have been like a weird person. They should have got a weirdo to play that character. But they wanted her to be a weirdo.
Well,
But
it's like,
unfortunately, they hired one of the most beautiful women in the world to be that.
Yeah,
weirdo.
exactly. And then you don't go,
we
oh, she's the
we
weird girl who
stopped
doesn't have any
playing
friends.
the fortunately unfortunately game, Chad. That's done.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's why the character doesn't fit right for me, is because like, oh yeah, she's the beautiful cover model girl. Well, so of course she has friends, even if she doesn't want them, because that's what happens when you're super attractive in high school. Everybody wants to spend time with you.
And yeah, I think if we didn't know ahead of time that she was Mary Jane, that character would have been ridiculous. Like
Right.
she's no different than Flash.
Hmm.
So
Who
And
is
I guess-
exceptionally annoying.
yes, I do have to give them credit for writing in a perfect bully for that school, where it's like when they're like, "You're going to that smart technical school for genius kids,"
Yeah.
and then Flash
We
walks
don't
in
have
and
a
it's like,
football team.
yeah. So, I thought that was well written.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she was the only character that I was like, this is a departure from the comic books in its entirety. Like you're not even catching like the core of the character. And the only reason I'm going along with it is because Mary Jane is my least favorite comic book character in the Spider-Man mythos. Like I have some serious dislike for Mary Jane Watson or Parker.
Right. Well, that's why you should enjoy the Zendaya MJ, because she's so different, right?
Because she's
Oh,
not
no.
Mary Jane Watson Parker. She's
Right.
Michelle Jones.
And that's what I was saying at the beginning is like, it's a criticism of the movie, but it's weird because I actually enjoy the character more the way it's being played by Zendaya, but it's still like part of me has to be like, this is a difference. Like this is,
Yeah.
and it's a unforced difference. It's not like the character of Mary Jane in the comics is a bad character. I just don't like that character. I'm Team Gwen all the way.
Mhm. Well, one of the things that David had mentioned about how like she's just sort of this weirdo outcast person.
Right.
Like when I was watching in the movie, I was just mostly like chuckling whenever she would pop in at the end of a scene to throw the punchline out there. But now that I think about it, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. It's like if you were watching the characters from the TV show Daria,
Right.
but it was from a completely different character's perspective, and you just see Jane every once in a while wander into frame and say something funny, and
Right.
then you go back to the other people's perspective. Like she feels like the sidekick to someone else, like for a different movie entirely.
Right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's why I think, Jane from Daria, that was someone that I thought was really cool when I was in high school, and I feel like I would have really enjoyed Zendaya's character if I was 16. I'm like, that's the funniest person in the movie.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Like, if they... And I feel bad because I actually do like the actor that's playing Ned in this, and I think he does a good job.
Right.
But I feel like if they had shelved Ned completely and just had Mary Jane as the girl in the chair, that would have been it would have been closer to the original of their next door neighbors. It would have been closer to the ultimate Peter Parker, who was best friends with Mary Jane before they started dating. That would have made it the whole thing a little bit more palatable, and it would have made her character make more sense how she was in this movie.
Right. Yeah, it's just weird. They just kind of have her in as this comic relief character, so that we can have her for the next movie. It's really what have her in this. Just not. So the design of all the characters' costumes. So we talked about the Vulture costume. That was really cool. And, I like the Spider-Man's costume. I really love his original, like homemade one with the hoodie and the goggles and stuff. And that was really cool.
Yeah. I always feel like Spider-Man's original costume is one of the best in whatever universe it is.
Yeah.
The first like really shitty costume is genius. Like, because they always manage to make it this is what a 15-year-old would cobble together.
Yeah.
And like they do a really good job of being like, this is what he thought he was making, and this is what he made. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love just homemade looking stuff in general too. Just like I love any kind of like movie that just looks like it was shot in someone's backyard. That kind of stuff. Those kind of spray painted homemade costumes are cool.
I will say this is the first time I've watched this movie since watching the other two. So I realize, David, you haven't seen them yet, and you can't see the one. But some of the criticisms I had against this movie, I feel like are resolved in the next two installments, where even though I was criticizing them, and I still feel like they're valid criticisms for watching this movie, seeing where they knew they were going ahead of time, now those decisions make more sense to me, and a slight golf clap for proving me wrong on my nerddom. I won't talk about them now. I'll wait until the third one. But
I do think that's kind of a strike against a movie of like, oh yeah, if you watch two more movies, then you'll like this movie. You'll actually like this one. Then a good sign for this movie.
I think it's not so much that if this was any other series of movies, I would agree with you. But because the only reason I have those criticisms of this movie is because I know the character that it's based off of. So like if we were just watching, I don't know, Unicorn Man, I wouldn't know the backstory enough to complain about it. Then I wouldn't have caught half of the criticisms that I have for this.
Right.
And then seeing how they did it later on, where it's like, oh, you knew what you were doing. This is something that's different, but it's not an heir. It's a groundwork for something later on coming. So I appreciate it more now. There's still valid criticisms, but I see why they took the B instead of going for an A.
Right. We didn't talk about Happy at all in this. Jon Favreau, he plays a bigger role than he does in most movies. It's a fun relationship he's got with being Spider-Man's handler. That's fun.
The thing about the movie that like with Happy, it's like I understand that because this is a movie about a teenager, one of the things that sort of needed to happen is he needed to have an adult who he tried to talk to ignore him, because that makes the responsibility Like it shifts it back onto the teenage main character,
Right.
and also it gives it that universal feeling that you have as a teenager, where adults aren't listening to you, even though you feel like what you have to say is important.
Right.
And like I understand that's why they had to do it,
Hmm.
but they didn't do it in a way that made it feel like, oh, he's not listening to you because of any kind of a reason. It
Yeah.
just felt like Happy's kind of an asshole.
Right.
Like Happy had been given a job that he didn't want to do and was annoyed at Peter Parker, so he was just not doing his job.
Hmm.
And I did enjoy in the scene when Peter Parker called Tony Stark out on, like, I tried telling you about this and no one listened. That's
Right.
why I'm here.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's not enough that Tony Stark is causing all of his own problems. He's also causing Peter Parker's problems,
Right.
Hmm.
like um, both directly and indirectly. Like, if it wasn't for Damage Control not hiring local contractors, this whole movie wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like as much as like it's annoying when you're watching it, like I do enjoy that they've never corrected that quintessential problem of Tony Stark, and they've let it bleed into Happy, who is trying to be like Tony Stark's his role model, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
like I enjoy that no matter how many times they make the same mistake, they constantly think they're smarter and know better than everybody else around them. And every time it blows up in their face, they're like, oh, I guess I was wrong. But
Yeah.
gonna make the same mistake again.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Do it again.
Because
It
that
worked
is
out okay
exactly
this
how
time,
people
right?
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So especially smart or people that should be smarter than that. Like
Right.
Hmm. One thing that I did appreciate with the movie is that they have Happy basically ignoring and shirking any responsibility for Peter, but
Mm.
when Iron Man comes down and he has to save the ferry, and Peter's just like, if you would listen to me, we wouldn't be in this situation now. And Iron Man's like, I was listening to you. Who do you think called the FBI?
Right.
Like this whole thing happened because you interfered in something that you had told me was a problem, and I had done something to solve that problem.
Right.
well,
And I,
well,
I appreciated the fact that, despite them having the one character who was there to provide the example of, adults not listening or being sympathetic, they had another adult who was being very unsympathetic, but it proved that he was actually listening as well.
Right.
yeah. When I think that's the like I think that's what makes this part of the movie so realistic is there's plenty of times where I know somebody's told me something and I've reacted to it, but I've not let the other person know that I'm reacting.
Mm.
Hmm.
And I've seen the tension that that causes.
Right.
Um, and I know that I've been in the other boat where like I've brought something up, other people have reacted, and I haven't seen a reaction, so I pushed an envelope that I didn't need to push.
Right.
And so yeah, I agree. That makes it really realistic. And it's kind of like, oh, you guys are both kind of wrong. Um,
Hmm.
and you didn't have to go to Civil War to like prove it. Like you guys managed to have like a completely rational discussion, part not happy with each other, and nobody punched anyone else. This was like
Right.
the closest to a healthy conversation that two heroes have had.
Yeah. Well, so you
Um,
still kind of get that surrogate dad kind of thing because he's gonna take away his suit, his toys until he's earned them back. Kind of like
Yeah.
Thor. But yeah. Spider-Man's a modern day Thor. That's what I like to think of him.
like you didn't know it, but that paper bag with the suit in
Right.
it has been sitting in Central Park for weeks
Yeah.
before they gave it back to him.
There were all kinds of people that were trying to pick up the paper bag, but couldn't move it.
Just weren't worthy. Well, yeah, his other
I
his
feel like
other
it would be
friend-
more accurate of like everybody was just avoiding the paper bag because they're like, oh, Central Park, no,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
touching
there's nothing good in
anything
there.
in that. Yeah,
At best, there's a bomb.
Yeah, maybe some drugs. It's a bunch of needles, probably.
probably a bomb with a bunch of needles in it,
Yes, stuff full of needles.
and it's just like covered in shit.
I really like the beginning of the movie where he's doing the neighborhood Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Love it when the guy tells him to do a flip and he does
That's
it.
that, I love that. like, hey, do a flip, and then the other guy's just like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, um, I I did like I did like making Aunt May
Mm,
younger, because not just because I enjoy Marissa Tomei, but
because
and
everybody
I
does.
yeah.
So you don't have to mention it.
Like you could have just said that she was like a 105-year-old woman, and I'd be like, fine, I'll take it.
Mhm.
But one thing that like reading the old comics and the new comics that it I don't think it impressed upon me until like much too late is that Aunt May isn't his biological aunt.
Oh, I
So
didn't know
like yeah, so like his parents died
that. Right.
and he was taken in by his dad's brother,
Oh, okay.
and then
Oh,
his dad's brother died,
right.
and Aunt May is basically just this woman that could be like, "Fuck you out,"
Right.
and she hasn't. Um,
Yeah.
so like making her younger and more sympathetic
Mm.
of not just like, "Oh, you're like 90, like just somebody that can like lift things isn't bad for you."
Yeah.
Have it being like, "Oh, you could really be out doing a lot of fun stuff, and instead you're making sure to take care of this teenager, like
Right.
the shittiest time to take
Yeah.
care of a kid."
Mhm.
And now that I know that she's like his step aunt, then that opens up the possibilities for fan fiction and things. We haven't done a fan fiction episode. We have to do that one of these days.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I do support that cast change,
Yeah.
or that character change.
I also really like how in the movie, like just random dudes just keep either hitting on her or talking about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the hottest woman in the neighborhood, so they have to.
Mhm.
Also, the guy who he plays the sandwich shop owner.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He's in the Evil Dead show as El Brujo. So that's who I know him from.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I did
it's
not
El
know
Brujo.
that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's going to happen at some point in our lifetime where Marissa Tomei is playing old ladies because she's eventually she's going to be an old lady. She'll just be the most attractive old lady in
Yeah.
movies, and we're like, yeah. Everyone in the movie will be talking about, hey, that 100-year-old woman's way too hot for a 100-year-old woman.
Mhm. I think a lot of it is just like people looked older back in the day
Mm,
than they do now.
yeah.
Because
I
like
think we've gotten older eyes now, and there's
part of it is that we the three of us
Right.
appreciate older women more. I'm not going to deny that that's not a part of this, but like J Lo right now, I think
Oh,
she's
yeah.
older than Rue McClanahan was when the Golden Girls started.
That's crazy.
oh wow, no, that's weird. You just broke my mind a little bit.
Like I need to go back and look this up, but I know that there are like very attractive older women
Right.
that are older than Rue McClanahan was when the Golden Girls started.
In
And
fact,
use Rue as a specific example because
Right.
she was the youngest of them.
who's the diabetes guy who was in when he was
Oh.
in
The guy who was born old.
yeah, because he was in that movie Cocoon where he played a senior citizen, but he was like 50 or something,
Mhm.
and everyone else was like in their 70s. He was like 25 years younger than all the other people that were playing senior citizens. But there's a line. It's called I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's the I can just picture his mustache. But it's basically once you cross that line, then that's when you're as an actor. It's like, oh, this guy is older than he is. Like when Paul Rudd probably has already passed that line, but still looks 20 years younger than that guy did. Yeah, we need to do a chart of all the Aunt Mays in age and see how old they were at the time of playing the characters.
I feel like that's gonna break my heart a little bit, but at the same time,
Just all my hair is going to turn gray and fall out.
yeah. Let's see. Just some random factoids that may be spoilers, but aren't spoiled yet, as far as I know of. So they're more just conjecture.
Right.
Ned Leeds is a definite bad guy later on. Like goes crazy, is evil.
Yeah. Well, you can see the seeds of that in this one.
Yeah.
Because when they're at the hotel on the field trip, and all the cool kids are going to the pool party, they run into Peter Parker. Like, hey, Peter Parker, come to the pool party with us. Nobody says anything about Ned. He's just sitting there in the room. They don't even talk to Ned till the next morning.
And then I want to say he dated Betty Brant in the future.
Oh, that's another thing I love about this movie is the school TV
yeah,
show host. I love them. They do such a great job.
It is a great job. And I did love the shout out of Betty Brant being the high school reporter when she was a real life Daily Review reporter.
Was it to be a real reporter? That's fun.
And actually, Peter Parker dated her for a while. So.
Yeah, for being such a nerdy twerp, he dates a lot of women in high school.
Yeah.
And beyond.
But then, on a side note, like, so in the 616 universe, there was like, he and Mary Jane had broken up, and then he had gotten together with Black Cat, and then there was a whole love triangle where like both of them were trying to date him. And Mary Jane wanted him to stop being Spider-Man, and Black Cat wanted him to stop being Peter Parker. But
classic.
My favorite retelling of that story was in the Ultimate Universe, when Black Cat was like totally jonesing after Spider-Man, and he wasn't dating anyone, and he was like, fine, and he pulled up his mask a little bit, and she realized that he was a 15-year-old kid and not like a 25-year-old dude.
Right.
And it was just like, whoa! I love that so much.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's something I was thinking about when watching this. Is like Tom Holland does a great job of looking like a 15-year-old boy, but then in an early scene when he's in his underwear, when he first comes into his room and in the Spider-Man costume, and Ned sees him, and he takes his costume off and he's just in his underwear, and he's a ripped little boy. He looks like a ripped little boy. It's very, very strange.
I think that he is just the same guy that was bulking up after playing tiny Steve Rogers.
I saw himself on camera. I was like, I gotta put on some muscle. So he started working out and got a lot of tone, but not much more muscle.
Well, when you're that small, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Right, he doubled his muscle mass. It's just there wasn't that much to begin with.
And like every time that like you double it again, it just compresses your bone a little bit more, so it stays the same size.
Yeah, just can't win. Yeah, but him looking like a little kid, or just like a real teenager, and then Zendaya does too. I was thinking about how, like when I'm watching this, I'm not thinking about how hot the girls are because they're so young looking, because it makes sense for them to look like they're in high school. But like in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies with Kirsten Dunst, having a big crush on her, but she I think is older than us by a couple of years, so it makes sense for us when we were in high school.
Older than you guys. I believe she's my age.
Oh, okay, there you go. So, but it's within a couple of years. We were all in high school at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one looked like. Sorry. What were you saying, Rob?
I was going to say close up enough in age that finding the girls hot in the original Spider-Man movies wasn't creepy.
Yeah.
And like now, there's like when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, Zendaya is a really attractive young lady. Good for Peter Parker. It's like I appreciate the casting choice, but I'm not like. And same with Liz and like the other girls in this room. Like, oh, these are all like attractive women that he's hanging out with. Good on you, Peter, but
Yeah.
not like, not as. It's just a lot harder to be creeping on kids nowadays than it used to be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When we were kids, it was a lot easier when we were
Well,
teenagers.
But when we were teenagers, guys our age were able to find Kristen Dunst a lot
That's true,
harder
they
than
were.
we.
Yeah, when the first Spider-Man movie came out, like we were either like tail end of high school or just out of it,
Right.
and like the characters in that movie, none of them looked like high schoolers because
Yeah.
we were around high school age, so we knew what high schoolers looked like.
Right.
Now we're in our 30s, approaching 40.
Yeah.
Uh, so we're looking at the people that are playing high schoolers, and we're like, these are very convincing looking high schoolers.
Yeah.
And I wonder to myself, are they convincing looking high
It's
schoolers,
true.
or am I just that fucking old?
Yeah. I think I'm at that age. Anyone under 25, and anyone between like 12 and 25 looks about the same to me.
Um,
Oh, and I went back and checked. Yeah, Rue McClanahan was 51 when Golden Girls started.
Oh wow.
J Lo is 52 now.
Yeah. So she's gonna be in the Golden Girls reboot.
She absolutely could.
Yeah.
and here's the thing, though: it's going to be set in a high school, so we can all. So another shout out from the comics. I believe that you have to look at the credits for this, but one of the girls on Peter Parker's debate team is Cindy Moon, who grows up to be Silk in the comics, and was actually bit by the same spider that bit Peter Parker.
Oh.
So she's a really cool comic book character.
Right.
I think she also has organic webbing.
Hmm.
But
He had spider powers. And
yeah,
she's a very cool character. Just
Cool.
you're better off looking up her later appearances than when she first started appearing in comics.
Yeah.
Because that stuff was definitely written by a guy probably going through a divorce.
No.
Yeah. I mean, like the thing that's sucky about that storyline, for those of you who are going to go back and read it, is like it was this close to being like legitimate cool science fiction, and then they crossed that line.
And it got into weird fetish wish fulfillment stuff. But she got better.
No way.
Also, what's really fun is she also works for Jonah off and on. And for some reason, he has the complete opposite reaction that he does with Spider-Man, where he's like, he looks at Cindy and sees someone that he can mentor and help.
Oh. Interesting. So reverse sexism kind of thing going on there.
She does in her original. She does have a really cool spider suit all the time, but I do really enjoy her original spider suit of just shooting herself with webs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a great superhero thing. Like, you always know who it is.
Right.
You can change the costume to suit your needs. Like, I did enjoy that aspect of her early appearance.
Does it dissolve in every like 6 hours or whatever?
I don't know how the organic webbing works in the comics.
I'm not sure how long her webbing takes to dissolve, but it just reminded me of that one panel where Spidey is explaining to the Avengers about the Superior Spider-Man storyline where Doc Ock took over his brain. And then he just got his body back and his suit and everything, and there was an issue where he had to change out of costume, so he webbed up some underwear for himself. But Doc Ock changed the formula of his
Right.
webbing to make it last longer.
Yeah.
So he made himself basically a web diaper that he was trapped in for hours on end.
I and that's the thing that I loved about this movie that they did correctly translate from the comics is how much stuff is just stupid superpowered stuff that's hilarious but is also like organic
Mhm.
Mm.
in it. Like I there's so many times when he's like that scene where he's basically redoing the um, Ferris Bueller run,
Right.
and then they call it out as he's running past,
Mm.
where it's just like, yes, this is stupid, and it's funny, but like, what is the superhero supposed to do when like their big thing is swinging and they're in the
Right.
suburbs?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a great thing for Spider-Man to run into, and every time they do it, it's comic gold of just him like, I'm running as fast as a spider can.
Yeah.
This is a ludicrous use of my powers. It's just running fast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why I like it when he has to drive Flash's car and he doesn't know how to drive because he's a 15-year-old boy and
Mhm.
who lives in the city. So yeah, no reason for him to ever drive a car.
Yeah.
But that's
Well, and in the canon of comics, like Peter Parker has like a late 20s, early 30s guy that he is in weird comic age. Still doesn't really know how to drive a car. Like,
yeah. No one in New
he,
York City has a car.
well, it's also because like you can swing at 180 miles
Oh
an
yeah,
hour.
that's it.
Like,
Yeah, it's way
uh,
faster than never needing.
so
Yeah, and instead of paying for gas, he's only paying for the webbing that he makes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Out of regular old household chemicals, I guess, because he makes a lot of it.
Mhm. But
that
yeah,
is
the
actually
webbing dissolving thing is actually another one of my favorite scenes. After he webs up Donald Glover,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "All right, you should be able to get your hand free in a couple hours." He's just like, "I got ice cream in here."
Yeah, hopefully he can get us to his keys and at least get the ice cream out and eat it. It'll be a waste
Mhm.
of good ice cream.
they didn't buy spoons.
Well, I
He
mean,
was going home.
yeah. Well, if I would eat it with my hands if I had to. If there's no other choice, either just watch it melt or eat it with your hands. Yeah.
Yeah,
Eat it with
if
your
you're
hands.
trapped for 2 hours and you're just like, "Do I watch my ice cream melt or do I eat it with my hand?" I
Right?
feel like that choice is
Drink
pretty
it.
simple.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like my pride, the webbing, or the ice cream, one of those is going to melt first, and it's
Right.
not going to be my pride.
The thing that I would worry about the most is just getting ice cream all over my beard.
Yeah.
The thing that I would worry about most is the fact that I'm in a sketchy part of town with my keys on the ground, and the only thing that's stopping somebody from driving off with my car is whether or not they care about me being dragged behind it.
Right. Yeah, because he doesn't have any sort of alien energy weapons. He wasn't able to buy any. So
No.
best, he just has a regular gun.
That was actually one of the things that like did kind of bother me in the comics though, is when they're like, he's like, oh, I just wanted something I could stick somebody up with, not to like send them back in time.
Right.
And they're like, no, times are changing. And then the cell phone goes off, and the other dude pulls out a fucking gun. Where I'm
Regular
like,
gun.
you're kind of ruining your own sales pitch here.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
'Cause he could have shot Spider-Man back into time.
Yeah.
So, saved himself a lot of trouble.
also just on the whole alien, like, I understand you have to let superpower or heroes get hit every now and again, but like, if the Shocker had reached into the back of that thing and pulled out a 12 gauge, this movie would have been done.
No.
Mhm.
But instead, he shot him with some sort of like punch you from a distance gun, which just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Which, and once again, I understand for science fiction, it's fun to send a character flying, but I've never understood why anybody would make a gun that just hits you really hard from a distance.
Right.
Like,
That's something like a hero would have. Something you'd want, Iron Man to have to knock out bad guys and not kill them.
yeah.
As a bank robber, do you want that? I don't know.
I mean, I
Only
could.
if you're robbing banks on the top of buildings,
Yeah.
because then you could just launch people off the side of the building.
I mean, I guess it would make sense if it was like, oh, I want to beat the if they arrest me, it's not assault with a deadly weapon because
Right.
it's not. I just tasered a bunch of people,
Yeah.
but just like the marketplace of like, why did Ultron or one of those other dudes have that? It doesn't make.
Right. It's weird how they different kind of weapons they make and stuff out of that technology when it just seemed to be mostly just guns, laser guns. One thing I thought that was very funny, and then one of my favorite gags to do is when Happy's on the phone and they're packing up the plane. He's like, "Okay, we got it. We just got to pack up the new Captain America shield and the new Iron Man suit, or the Hulkbuster armor, and then the Thor's belt." I always like that Porky Pig thing. We can't say the word. He still can't say the word, and then he says a different word.
I also like that everybody like, even though they hang out with the guy, still can't pronounce the thing that he said to them
Yeah.
repeatedly. It's just it's one of the things that I loved about the Ultimate comic book universe, is that they never, like, nobody really believed him when he was like, I'm a god, where they're just like, so it's a hammer, the hammer does it for you, like, and I do enjoy where they're like, he's a god, but like, I don't care what he calls his stuff, like,
Yeah.
and none of the
Well,
things that he
yeah.
says make sense, like.
Also, with him being a god, like in the comic books, is there like huge like Thor cults running around after people realize that Thor's an actual real god that walks around and defeats bad guys?
100 years from now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or in the Ultimate comic books, he does have a. It's not really like a cult, but it is definitely a group of people that modern day worship him.
Mm.
Yeah, it's basically just like a cross between like the people that believe in various pagan stuff and people that are just like very into the uh, eco stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is in the Ultimate comics, where he has like a bunch of followers that follow him around. But it's not like a full-on cult. In the 2099 universe, there are actually people that worship Thor.
You guys think we're gonna live to 2099? Probably with modern technology.
Like with us?
Yeah, us like 77 years from now.
I don't expect to.
Yeah.
Because I would have to be 117, and my body is not having a great time at 40.
Oh.
Yeah. I historically am bad at looking both directions before I cross the street. So
yeah,
I don't think science is gonna.
Right.
I mean, unless they get those like self-driving cars, and then I got a shot. But
yeah, I think there are people our age that are rich and have self-driving cars, and nutritionists and workout trainers and things, and doctors that check up on them all the time and give them special new drugs that will live till then, but probably not us.
Yeah, no, we are definitely too poor.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that I can think of for that specific thing is that they have been talking about some promising technologies that, if they get revolutionized, would be a cheaper way of like just fixing bodies and regrowing parts that are like your own organs cloned and making you younger.
Right.
So if that technology comes along in the next like 30, 40 years, then maybe that would.
I figure we're about like 50, maybe 60 years away right now from them being able to just figuring out a way to siphon youth and vitality from poor people.
Right.
Oh no, they've done that already. It's a call center.
Right.
They
But
just
does
haven't
that
figured
really
out
distribute it?
the
Yeah.
distribution. That's a different
Yeah.
thing altogether. But they know how to suck it out of you.
Right. So it's one of those machines where it loses a lot of energy to heat
Yeah.
and stuff, so it doesn't
Mhm.
really get get a lot of the benefits of it. It takes the fuel, is your youth and energy.
All
The
they
only
can
kiss in
really
this movie.
convert it into is misery and
Yeah.
antagonism. Um, so
Hmm.
the only kiss in this movie?
Yeah, the only kiss in this movie is Gwyneth Paltrow and Tony Stark. That's a Pepper and Tony at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So adults kissing, and
Gross.
yeah, we see
Back
that
in
this
back
movie.
in my day, guys my age got to watch kids kiss.
Yeah. And I thought it was funny if you watch the credits. Gwyneth Paltrow gets pretty high billing. She's like with Bill, like above Donald Glover and Ned, and even above Zendaya and stuff. Even though she's only in that one scene for 20 seconds or whatever.
She's got a good agent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She probably got paid a lot just for that one scene.
Yeah.
The invisible plane, that was really cool looking. I thought that was a good idea.
Him climbing on it and just
Mm.
like the giant Spider-Man, like
Yeah, because the camera's picking him up.
I thought
That
that
was such a
stupid
great
and
visual gag.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. It's like he's all sneaking, and then they just pan out, and it's like, this is the most not sneaky you could possibly be. There's another part in it where he's like creeping up on somebody, and they pan to across the street, and it's a guy in a red and blue suit hiding behind a car on a busy street where there's
Right.
a lot of people just driving by, being like, Spider-Man is hiding behind that.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed
Fun.
that.
Yeah. But there was something I did notice, is that the CGI in this isn't as good as it is in other MCU movies. I feel like there's a lot of stuff where you see him running around and stuff where he looks a little rubbery. The same with the Vulture. But in their on the plane stuff, I was like, this looks really good. But then other stuff, you can really tell it's not great.
I want to blame that on Sony.
Yeah, that's what
Like,
I was thinking.
I
when
don't
was watching it.
necessarily think that that's the 100% the truth,
Hmm.
but like I just have this urge as a fan of the MCU where I'm just going to be like, that's Sony's fault.
Yeah, because they do it so well generally in the other movies. That's got to be one of those Sony things.
You know, I agree with you guys on wanting to blame Sony, but like I feel like this right here was in the rising tempo to Endgame. And I feel like a lot of the CGI here got rushed, where like the timetable is speeding up and speeding up.
They probably just had less people working on stuff too.
Yeah,
and they had more movies going on at the same time,
Right, yeah.
so like
'Cause
they couldn't
Black
have their
Yeah, right. Black Panther's coming up, and Thor Ragnarok. The next two are very CGI heavy.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
and
can see that.
also Disney was creating the Star Wars movies around this time, so
yeah.
like they're using the same CGI firms,
Right.
So
Yeah. So hell of a time to where you're working at ILM, I guess. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, some moments that really got me. When Spider-Man, he gets trapped into the rubble, right? When the Vulture knocks all the pillars down and traps him into the rubble, and then he remembers he's a scared little 15-year-old boy, and he's like, help me, somebody help! I'm trapped under here. Like that really, like he did a great job right there in that moment.
and the best
Yeah.
shot in the entire movie was when he's looking at the pool of water at his own mask. Like anytime you get that quintessential half Spider-Man, half Peter Parker, that always I'm like, fucking yeah. Because I feel like that shot is kind of like the Tony Stark, where you see him inside the Iron Man mask from the comics. Like those are those things that like I know what that means. So like best shot in the whole movie. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was great. The other thing that really got me was the scene in the car after after Michael Keaton has figured out that he's Spider-Man, and lets his daughter go, and he gives him the whole thing about when care about my family, and you saved my daughter, so I'm gonna let you go this time. But if you ever mess with my business again, I'll kill you. I'll kill you and everyone you know. And he's like, it's really intense. Like, I think Michael Keaton did a great job in that, and even Peter Parker in that moment of like looking the way you would as a 15-year-old boy when your date's dad is giving you any kind of aggressiveness, but then also threatening to kill you, and you know he'll do it. It's very they both did a great job in that scene. And then when in the end when he's like, yeah, so go show her a good time, but not too good, huh? Yeah, it's just nice dad joke.
I thought that scene was super powerful too, because like they say it a couple of times in the comic books that the reason why, like, they've asked Spider-Man why he wears a full face mask when if he wore something that wasn't covering up all of his features, people might not be so creeped out by him.
Right.
And he's like flat out said like, oh yeah, I crack jokes and wear a full mask because if I wasn't, everybody would see how fucking terrified I am at all points in time.
Right.
So like that scene where this is the first time that Peter Parker has faced an enemy not without that veil in front of him. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And I thought it was extra powerful when they cut to the scene of his phone being dropped in the back seat of the car so he could track him, where it was like while he's getting threatened and acting, he was legitimately figuring out how to track this guy because he wasn't going to go for it. Like normally, like you always know the hero's going to like tough up and go after the bad guy. But I felt like they did a good job where he wasn't even struggling with the question of whether or not he was going to do it. He was figuring out how he was going to do it and feeling bad about the consequences for Liz. Like those were the only two things that he was going through his head. And that to me was a really accelerated way, but a really like strong way of showing the hero's question for him.
Yeah. And I'm really glad he got to have that moment, because I felt like there wasn't as much of that in this movie as you usually get with Spider-Man, because we skip the origin story for this Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So we don't get the I got to use my powers for good kind of thing all the time, and being kind of torn about. It gets a little bit at the party when Ned's like, you got to show up as Spider-Man. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. But then he still brings the suit, and he's going to do it before he gets distracted. So there's a little bit of it, but not too much. Yeah. Yes, you guys got to talk about the Stan Lee cameo, yelling at him out a window. That was funny when he whips up the guy who's trying to break into a car, but it's his own car.
Yeah,
it's fun.
I
if that was racial profiling. No, right? As an Asian guy?
Yeah, I feel like he does have an Asian best friend.
Yeah, that's true.
Which goes a long way to meaning that he's probably not super racist. Like, and second, what was the second thing? If you're going to be racially profiling, I don't just automatically assume Asian people are stealing cars.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
especially not New York.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that any racial profiling is right, but that would still be the wrong racial profiling to be employed.
There's a list of stereotypes, and Asian car thieves is not in the top 10.
I mean, maybe if it looked like something out of Fast and Furious, maybe, but mostly I would just assume that they were running illegal gambling and buying the car legitimately.
Right.
That would be my...
Yeah, it's money.
If I was racially profiling.
Yeah, right.
Which I'm not.
Yeah. That's all. Oh, and the Captain America stuff in the video. Talked a little bit about that. That was great when Hannibal Buress, Coach Hannibal Buress, plays the video and is like, "Oh, so I guess this guy's a war criminal, but I mean, I gotta show you the video."
That was really good. The other one was where he talks about, and my good friend, and he points to where the gym teacher's supposed to be standing. But
Yeah.
Hannibal Buress is on the other side.
That's also a great gag I always love to see.
I feel like anytime Hannibal Buress is in something, though, he's
Mm.
almost always criminally underused.
Yeah.
Because like he's got the one style of comedy,
Right.
but it's kind of like it's like a 311 or Hootie and the Blowfish. It's always the same, but it's always the same amount of good too. So,
Right.
Hmm.
um,
That's the question I've always wondered about. 311 is like, how many 311 songs can you hear in a row before you have to say something? And I think it's
An
3. I
album?
think it's like I think it's like the 3, whatever the 3 most popular songs were on the radio. Like after those 3 are over, and then it's still more 311, then you got to be like, okay, what's going on here?
well, I feel like normally I would say it's something like 3, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's probably like 5 or 6 before you have to say something,
Mm.
because like the first 4 you think are the first 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's not until you're like, I've been listening to 311 for like 15 minutes. What the fuck?
Someone's got to hit shuffle on that playlist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could probably listen to to a whole album because
Yeah.
their albums all kind of sound not that their albums sound similar to each other, but
Right.
everything on one album sounds
Mm.
like the same song. So I'm just gonna be like, huh, this song's gone on for 35 minutes now.
Yeah.
It's a good song, the one song that
Yeah.
they play per album.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I mean is it's the one thing. It's still always the same thing, but it's the same amount of good the entire time. So
Yeah.
Mhm. So are we at the ranking part?
Yeah, except for the one last thing I wanted to mention, I totally forgot to mention, is the part where Tony Stark, he takes him to the new Avengers compound, and he's telling him how, he he screwed the pooch, but then he made up for it. He did the right thing. He married the pooch and then raised the pooches, the little halflings or whatever.
took the pooch to the free clinic
That's what
and
it was,
raised
yeah.
the half breed babies. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he mentioned free clinic, I was like, is that he implying that normally what he would expect someone to do is take the pooch to get dog abortions? And then doing the right thing would be to not do that. I don't know. I think that's what was going on there. But he admits it himself. That's not a good metaphor or whatever.
Yeah.
That is implied. That. Okay, rankings. Yes,
I just feel the need to say like just for somebody from my socioeconomic class, the free clinic doesn't just offer abortions. Like you can go to the free clinic and like make sure your pregnancy's doing okay and take it to term. Like
yeah. But that's not why the free clinics were in the news, I guess.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that Tony Stark associates free clinics with.
Yeah.
Because he's never had to go to a clinic that's not full of doctors that overcharge.
Yeah.
Well, I just assume that he assumes that Peter Parker can't afford a real doctor, and neither can the pooch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not that free clinics don't have real doctors. That's not.
Yeah, I almost also used the phrase "real doctors," and then I like switched it up in my head to doctors that charge too much money.
Yeah. Tell me really, what's a real doctor, anyways?
Not a dentist, that's for sure.
So yeah, what did you guys have ranked previously and now?
I always forget to actually look at my previous rankings.
I had it number 13 out of whatever it is, 27. So right in the middle, in between Captain America: The Winter Soldier and Captain Marvel. So right in the middle of the captains. And now I also have them pretty much in the middle of where we are here, at number 8, between Iron Man and Ant-Man. So it was Iron Man, Spider-Man, Ant-Man. Me right in the middle.
I
good.
I
That's not
originally
problems.
had it as number 8, so I had it, you know, in the upper half,
Mm,
like actually in the upper
a
third
third,
of the
yeah.
movies, uh, just above Civil War, and I will again be placing it just above Civil War. This time it is now number 9,
Okay.
and I think it's probably going to end up sort of staying towards the middle of the
Mm,
list.
I originally had this movie high. Probably like I feel like Endgame and Infinity War were the two that were higher just because of the payoff and everything.
mm,
Um, and I will say that if I factor in how much I care about Spider-Man, this is still my number one movie that we've seen so far.
oh,
Um,
okay.
just just on the grounds that they did the character so well throughout, like that more than the Spider-Man that came before. They nailed the feel of Peter Parker and the Spider Verse so well. Um, if I'm not factoring in how much I enjoy Spider Man, I would say that this one probably falls behind Winter Soldier for me, and probably right behind. So it's like Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, um, this movie behind Iron Man 1 and Captain America 1, but right above Captain or Iron Man 3.
Okay. Yeah, so I can say like the bottom of the top,
Yeah.
top of the middle. Yeah. Yeah, it's fair. We're all kind of in agreement that it's good but not great. Yeah, but not bad.
Yeah. I think my I think this is really also where it starts being like, other than Ragnarok, which is the only Thor movie that I liked.
Mm,
This one really starts going hard in the trend of, if you didn't if it weren't for the MCU, none of these movies would be as good as they
mm,
are, but they're definitely a part of something larger now.
right.
It's getting to the point where I can't isolate them and have them have the same ranking at the
Right.
same time.
Yeah.
Um, it's at the point where it's like, the MCU is a beautiful person. Taking one piece of anatomy off of it is looking at one movie. Like, on its own, it's always going to look fucked up,
Right.
but only as a part of a whole can
Yeah.
it really be
Right.
appreciated.
Hmm.
That's a big part of the context now of
Yeah.
the movie's work and things. Yeah, because this was, like I said, this was the first one I didn't see in theaters, and I think maybe the only one until after Endgame. So he's the only one I skipped. Oh, this and the other Spider-Man movie. Yeah, but that was after
Hmm.
Endgame.
After
Yeah,
Endgame, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But then I haven't seen anyone since then.
I I love the fact that we have all of our own opinions on everything,
Mm.
and they may be kind of disparate, but no one's just like, you're stupid. You're stupid and your opinion's stupid, and so's your face.
Yeah,
Because like you're describing everything as, it's just like you can only look at these movies as part of the MCU, and that's what makes them good. And I'm looking at the rest of the movies coming down the pipe for like the next month and a half, and
mm.
I'm just like, yo, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp, and everything else is straight bangers. Like, these are like all of my favorite fucking movies,
Oh,
and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
okay.
See, I still liked Ant-Man and the Wasp, but
No,
Mm,
I think it's a good movie,
right.
yeah,
but it's not like as much as I like Ragnarok or Black Panther, or
yeah.
and I know that this is not a popular opinion. I really enjoy the fuck out of Captain Marvel.
Wow.
Oh,
I love that
I'm
movie.
right there with you. I thought Captain Marvel was a great movie,
Mm,
Hmm.
for what it was.
Hmm.
And when I say for what it was, is a shoehorned in prequel to justify an addition later on.
mm,
Like, would it have been a better movie if it came chronologically when it was supposed to? Yes. I already knew how certain stuff was going to end.
Hmm.
But for what it was a well done movie.
Yeah.
And but that's kind of where I'm saying is like, on its own, it would have been kind of a shitty movie because you kind of know how it's going to end getting into it, and none of it really matters.
All right.
But within the context of the MCU, it becomes a great backstory movie. And that's what I mean. Like when I say I'm getting to the point where I can't cut them out of the context of the greater MCU is because like I've had this conversation a couple of times where Infinity War and Endgame, I feel like everybody really enjoys at least one of those two the most. Like those are sitting in the top 3 of virtually every MCU fan. But if you look at those movies critically, they make absolutely fuck all sense unless you've watched the rest of the MCU. Without them, they don't stand alone. They're not good. They have no character development. Like,
they're crowning achievements, but they're not good movies.
Yeah.
Well, they're a good experience.
Yeah.
But that's what I keep saying though, and this is like the paradigm how it's shifted for the MCU is like they managed to make a movie experience where you don't have to make it for the people that are just looky-loos. They've really been like, if you're not going to watch all of the movies, then we don't care if you enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been my understanding of what they did with the Twilight movies, even though I only saw the last one. I feel like that was one of those movies they really leaned into. We're making this movie for people that are into Twilight.
Yeah, it's the same thing that Kevin Smith does.
Yeah.
Like, I think he long ago decided there's certain movies that I make because I'm a filmmaker, and there's certain movies that I make because I think that this is going to be great.
Right.
Yeah.
And the things that he thinks is going to be great, he doesn't care whether or not you love it, because he and his friends get to have fun making them.
Yeah. No, so those movies, I like those movies a lot better than the other kind.
Well, and I think too, like artistically and story-wise speaking, like I think the conventional wisdom that has prevailed for a long time in the movie industry is how to make the most people enjoy it the most possible. And 20 years ago that made sense. 30 years ago that made sense.
Right.
But nowadays, with how technology is, how movies are experienced, that isn't the only way to make $100 million. Like you can make a lot of money being like, no, let's just make something right. And the people that enjoy it will, and the people that incidentally walk into it and are like, well, what's this all about? As long as we're making it good enough, they're going to walk out of the theater, their nerd friend is going to explain stuff, they're going to pick up a comic, and then we slowly are bringing them into this universe, not trying to explain Batman for the 1000th time to somebody who's like, I've never heard of Batman. Isn't that for children? Like just getting past that conversation altogether and be like, it's kind of like explaining difference between like cultural things where it's just like, just fucking Google it. If you're not gonna don't ask me what it is to be Jewish, Google it, and then you can come and talk to me. Like it's just that thing of like, if you don't know who Spider-Man is, Wikipedia has a whole entry. You can read that, figure it out, and then come enjoy this movie. We're not gonna waste 15 minutes of everybody else's time explaining what you should have looked at before you came to the movie. And I appreciate
just something that everybody knows. He get bit by a radioactive spider. That's how superheroes get their powers if you ask somebody who's never read a comic book.
Yeah.
So it's time for a segment to end the show.
Okay.
This is a game called Marvel High School. We're gonna cast. We're gonna hire the teachers in our new high school here in the Marvel universe, and I'll name a subject, and you guys will figure out who is gonna be the teacher teaching that subject, and then maybe
Is this
later
just
on.
MCU characters that we've already seen?
No, any MCU characters in the MCU. Why not?
Okay.
Cool. And then on Twitter I will make a Photoshop of each of these if I have time eventually.
Okay.
So first subject, reading. Who's going to teach reading? That's a class, right?
I think,
We're taking a reading
literature is what you're going for.
Well, it depends. How old are these students?
It's a high school.
Okay.
Okay, because if you're going to say first graders, then I'm like, yes, reading's a class.
Okay.
This is what I know about a school: is reading and then two other things.
So once you hit David's age, not only do everybody under the age of 25 look like they could be 12,
Yeah.
but anything under like high level college stuff just seems like grade school.
Yeah. You're not getting a degree, then it doesn't count. It's for babies. That's what I say.
Bucky.
Bucky?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
He mentions in Captain America and Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay.
Or Captain Falcon. I can never remember the name of the show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yeah, he mentions that he read J.R.R. Tolkien growing up.
Oh.
See, I think this might be like the difference between your school and my school is that you're looking for teachers that want to teach, and I'm looking for teachers that are going to effectively teach to students. I want to call vision. Not only does he have every book in his head already,
Right.
but every paper that those students write, he can see if it's plagiarized.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, he's a human Google for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he is the best teacher to put the dumb ones to sleep so that you don't have to.
Yeah. And also, I do say that Bucky does he's got a poet's eyes.
He does.
Bucky, yeah.
But like, how could you read when you're smelling that much oil?
It's true. It's distracting. Okay, so the second subject after reading, of course, is writing. Who would be the writing teacher at Marvel High? What do you guys say?
All right. Maria Hill.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say she's going to teach you how to concisely get to the point. She's going to read for whether or not it's intelligible, but she's got that analyst brain, right? So she's going to be able to see what you were trying to say and try to figure out how to get it there. Like,
yeah. See that?
I want to say Phil Coulson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely a Shield person.
Well, like
doing a lot
creative. Is it
writing.
creative writing or is it just writing? Because if it's creative writing,
right,
Coulson's going to be good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't seem to be much of the creative type. She's more by the book.
Because Coulson's written some Captain America fan fiction.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He and Bucky have probably read it to each other.
You think famous people do that? Read their fan fiction about them to their lovers? I hope so. I hope they're reading the fan fiction about them.
I mean, it would feel weird if they weren't doing it when I'm doing the same thing of reading their fan fiction to my lovers.
Coulson. Are you spell Agent Coulson?
C-O-U.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah,
okay, good. Right. So I would pass the writing class. So yeah, so reading, writing, and of course the third subject is arithmetic. I think that's how it's spelled. It looks weird. Yeah. That looks weird, right? Who would be the arithmetic teacher? Marvel High.
I mean, you got to go with Peter Parker.
Is he a science guy or a math guy more?
Well, math is his number one science. Like,
that's
why he doesn't like smash into every building, is because he can do all those angles in his head.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to say if Peter Parker's taken, maybe Reed Richards would be a good one for math. But it would be so hard to get him focused on just the one class.
Yeah. Well, it's good that he can stretch out all over the
Yeah.
classroom and I don't know. What would you do to stretch around a classroom? Tap kids on the shoulder and tell them to pay attention, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Are
Look for
teachers
notes.
allowed to touch kids anymore? I don't think so. Even if it's just a tap on the shoulder. Who knows?
I mean,
Last
at
time
my
we were
high
in high
school, yeah.
I
Well,
think it
because-
depends on how poor the children are.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, this is my high school, so all of these kids are 25.
I'm gonna go with Hank Pym.
Hank Pym. Okay.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. We'll say Peter Parker and Hank Pym, and if Peter Parker is busy, then Fantastic will be his substitute.
Yeah.
Oh, why?
Actually, do we get to, did you put principal in there? Because if there's no principal, I want Reed Richards is going to be my principal.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, Principal has to be in there.
I would want Pepper Potts to be the principal of my school.
Oh, yeah. She's a good principal type.
Yeah.
So we'll put Reed Richards and Pepper Potts. Good alliteration there. Reed Richards. Potts with 2 T's.
We should put these lists up for each of our schools, Chad, and see how many people want to go to which, who wants to go to which school.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Do a poll. So who's your gym teacher at Marvel High School?
I need to know right now, is shop a class?
No, it's not.
Okay. Punisher.
Because he would have been the shop teacher if that was an
Yeah.
option.
If there was shop,
Right.
he would have been my shop teacher, and I would go with Ben Grimm as my gym teacher.
Oh yeah.
But if no shop class, Punisher.
Punisher.
Frank Castle all the way.
I am. I'm stuck because I want to give it to Hulk
Ooh.
because he's going to understand both sides of the gym problem, where you're
Oh
too
yeah.
much of a great athlete to actually enjoy doing anything that's required in gym class, and when you're a gigantic nerd and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
But he's only going to understand it half the time.
Yeah. Exactly. I think the
Well, I'm
issue with
thinking
having
this smart
Yeah.
Hulk.
okay,
Hulk
smart
Endgame.
Hulk.
Yeah.
Endgame
But-
Hulk. Good idea.
But the other thing that I would really like to do is I
Hmm.
would like to put Thor in charge of gym class.
Oh yeah. If you had to be a teacher, that would be the one to do it. If you don't have a Norse mythology class.
I'm sure that he would have a lot of fun, especially when you get to play like dodgeball or something.
Yeah.
It'll be Dodge Hammer.
It's
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and
through the
say
kids.
that if you should put Thor there and then
Right.
use Smart Hulk as your student guidance counselor.
Oh yeah, he would be a good
Mm.
guidance counselor. He's got that insight.
I wouldn't want to have Hulk for the guidance counselor. I would want Black Widow.
Oh
That's a good
Because she's
call.
gonna know exactly what your potential is.
yeah.
Like she's not gonna like sugarcoat it and be like, you know, Chad, you're so smart. You could go on to be anything. She would be like, you know that you're gonna go to community college.
Yeah, just get used to that fact.
Yeah, just take it easy for the rest of the
Yeah.
year and try not to fuck up.
See, I would go with Nick Fury as my guidance counselor,
Oh really?
because like he's not just going to tell me what I could do. He's going to tell me in no uncertain terms what I cannot do, and he's going to know exactly what I'm up to and how I should go about getting it done. So,
Mhm.
plus he's probably a really good recommendation for the kind of work that I could do.
Yeah, he would know that kind of stuff. He's
Yeah.
good at placing people into positions and things. So who would be our band teacher at the Marvel High School?
Peter Quill.
Oh yeah, he loves music.
Oh, that's
He is
good.
going to put together the best marching band shows.
Yeah, he's a creative guy. Loves music, dancing, goofball. What do you think, Harry?
Thanos, because
He knows how to snap.
He knows how to snap. He's got the gold and skin tight armor that bends. I mean, it's perfect for any band.
Yeah.
Like you just put a little hat on him. Even the little thing that comes down to hold the hat on is going to cover up that fucked up chin of his.
It has to be a really, really long, whatever, chin strap. So we go. Come out of the last two. Theater teacher. Who would be our theater teacher in Marble High School?
Oh man. I mean,
think-
Loki.
Oh yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good
Loki is a really good choice.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Captain
the reason,
America.
one.
oh,
Oh yeah, he's got stage experience,
hmm
musical theater experience. Yeah.
so yeah, I mean that's a good one. The reason I went Loki is because the one thing that every high school theater department needs is somebody that can do cheap special effects. So
There you go. Yeah, it would look great. It would look great. And last one, who would be the driver's ed teacher? At Marble High School?
I mean, my knee jerk has to be Daredevil.
Well, do people know that Daredevil's blind, or would it have to be his?
I mean, eventually they know that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. So
Right.
yeah. Um,
Hmm. Daredevil's a great choice because for driver's ed teacher, you definitely want the man without fear.
It's true.
Uh, I'm gonna go with Ultron
Oh, Ultra.
because there's a chance that he could take over the car in case something goes wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And if something goes so drastically wrong and he can't do that, you still have a driver's ed teacher whether or not you have another car for the
It's true.
next
He's
student.
indestructible.
Yeah.
I feel like he could turn into a car if he had to. I
I'm
don't know if
sure
it's
he
a lot of
has at some
transforming.
point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yes, that's
I'm not sure if I want to go with Daredevil as driver's ed because
yeah. It's the funniest answer, but you think
it's
he
a
would be
funny
the
ass
best
answer, but I don't think it's the best.
driver's ed teacher? Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Ultron's the wrong choice for me.
Okay.
Doctor Strange.
Ooh.
He
Yeah,
knows
he's
from experience
yeah.
how bad, quickly things can go bad
Yeah.
behind the wheel of a car. Also, he can control time.
Yeah.
That's very true. I'm gonna say for my for my driver's ed, it's something fun, and you need somebody that's gonna have that fun. It's serious, so you want somebody that students are gonna respect, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna say Falcon. Like he's
Yeah.
got that cool, like he can de-stress you. You know that he sees things happening a long ways away.
Yeah.
He's got that. And my substitute would be Ant-Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he would
Because-
also be very good.
If you can just teach everybody to drive on the little car,
That's true. You can crash it like the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff where it
Yeah.
just falls over. Cool. Yeah, so we'll put that out on our Twitter at Opala Koala, probably in our Discord too. See which one of these high schools people would rather go to, and then
So-
you'll get to be superintendent.
I would say give Chad the Ultron substitute to for his driver's ed, because
Okay.
those
Yep.
guys never make it to all the classes.
Mhm.
It's true, because that's not a full time gig. That's something you do after hours.
Like usually it's like the PE teacher or something that can't
Yeah.
coach.
Oh yeah, and it's like off season or whatever.
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah, so that is our show for tonight. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you guys for being here once again this week. Next week we are going to be talking Thor. Yes.
Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok with probably Joe Lewis or Dan Connell. Let's see. So stay tuned for that, or come back to that. Stay subscribed,
No,
following us.
stay watching
Stay.
this.
What?
Don't
Yeah,
move.
don't move.
We'll be
Keep
back
your
next
eyes
week.
open for 6 days and 23 hours.
Yeah.
22 hours. Yeah, we'll do that. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Oh crap, I forgot to pull up a video for us to close out on. So
No, we could just awkwardly shaka like
yeah,
KHON.
We could kiss.
yeah, we'll kiss each other, and then we'll see you guys next week. Bye.